it's really strange that politics as usual in America means back to mass shootings. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that sad, yo? Like, back to normal means strangers walking up to other strangers and shooting them, a whole bunch of them in public spaces. That's what politics as usual means in America, and that's totally outrageous. And but why is that? Why are there even though we how much of the population of the world America is like 4%, 5%, something like that. Um, and we represent about 42% of the world's firearms for some reason, because I guess someone's going to come and invade us. No one's going to come and invade us because we have that many guns. That's already a fact. No one's ever coming. So you don't need to buy any more. Please don't buy any more guns. Maybe, I don't know, but I mean, it's up to what's going on here. I want to share this article real quick. Reason why I want to talk about it, because the pandemic has been like a situation where like I've seen the most like hardened people, the most people that are like I do it with this like I was the basket case, but because of the pandemic, a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues. A lot of people are dealing with isolation. A lot of people are dealing with depression. A lot of people are like dealing with the stress of work and family. So a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues way more than ever before. So to go around and blame mental health for all these mass shootings, I'm not really sure if that's a good argument anymore at this point. Everyone's fucking fucked up right now. It doesn't mean that we're all going to be going out and murdering each other with our firearms. So
But I think what's missing in your viewpoint
yeah,
here is that uh, everybody deals with trauma, psychological trauma, PTSD, however you want to categorize it. Everybody's expression of pain is going to be different. Everybody's expression of paranoia is going to be different. Everyone's mental illness and what triggers them is going to be different. So it's kind of like if you've been through some things in your life, right? If you were to turn your dread on yourself, people would say that you are a coward and how could you do that to your family and blah blah blah, right? But they don't understand that they probably feel a similar kind of pain that you might feel,
yeah,
but it just presents completely differently. Some people turn their pain inward. The people that we're worried about are the ones that turn their pain outward and they lash out against other people. They lash out against society. So I don't think
it's a
that
perfect.
mental illness is something that we can discount right off the bat. But I do think that if we are going to be able to find out whether or not it really is the culprit, we need to address it like aggressively and then see what kind of world we're living in after that. And if the mass shootings go down or disappear, then maybe that was the trigger for those people. If they still continue, then we've got a larger cultural issue on our hands.
And we already have a cultural issue, where we have a nightmare issue right now where like even though people are driven to buy firearms to protect themselves, as you see like in the odd ratios over studies over like 3 decades of gun violence and gun death studies, it shows that most of the people who use their guns or use it on themselves or use it on strangers or use it on their family members. The idea that you're going to be John Wick out of your house, the odds of that is like statistically so low. It's like fantastically low.
So you're
That's
saying
why
that they're not going to
those
call
still.
for a dinner reservation for 12? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
exactly. I mean, the odds of you needing your gun to defend yourself against like ninjas with like Uzis are really low. I'm telling you, it's really really low. That's
Like
because
Ninja Assassin?
ninja assassins coming in your house or a burglar coming in your house with like a shotgun. But the thing is, when those stories hit the media, they're fantastically scary. You see it, and you're like, oh my god, like man breaks into a house and kills grandmother, 79-year grandmother. Those stories do happen, and those stories are scary. But the media just projects that, and then you try to call a hotline for a therapist. It's out of network, and it's $300, a session. So so right away you already have these roadblocks of people seeking help when they see this trauma presented to them day in day and out. So It's a dynamic that happens in this country of like being pressed with trauma, being experiencing trauma, and then having no outlet to process it. But here we have, the idea that, Korea is coming, or like Iran is coming, or China is coming, or Russia is coming, or black people are coming. Most of it is because people are scared black people are coming. That's hope. We have to be straight up a buck. That's what the Second Amendment is all about black people. There was way more black people in this country than white people when they started this country, and they were really scared of that. So that's why the Second Amendment came all about. It was a lot of black people just, willy nilly around here, and they're really scared one day that we're gonna be like, fuck that. We're not working for free anymore. So that's what the Second Amendment is from, and now it's just this antiquated dinosaur rule, that allows people to buy like the most powerful weapons in the world in their houses. So I mean, I'm not talking about this AR-15. I'm talking about armor-piercing bullets. I'm talking about weapons that who you fighting, like Blade. So
Yes. And his tax returns.
and his tax returns. So like, and one place I want that's crazy in this article that actually it's like an intersection of crazy shit that they did a study in one of these towns that actually where this article is from 2017, but Auburn Arbery, where he was killed, this is the same town where they did this particular this study. So it's just crazy intersection of Auburn Arbery's story of being ran down by white people really suspicious with shotguns. And then you see this study here in 2017 that says that it's not some gun frenzy town. Is that matter? That data doesn't matter to a lot of people. I mean, like that's the thing. There's guns everywhere at this point in this country. To say that it's like saying there's water in the ocean. Okay, so what? There's mad guns here. But the thing is, it's about the idea that so many people they assume that they're protecting themselves from like armed robberies and like armed rapes and all that kind of stuff. But statistically, that's not happening at all. When you live in a small town like that, you really think the odds of you being raped by like an armed robber is going to happen. But yet, those are the most heavily armed people in the country. So the interesting dynamic of that, and then Auburn Arbery gets murdered by armed white men, just looking at a house. 3 years.
But
Yeah.
here's where. So you heard about the young lady that was abducted and killed in the UK,
Oh yeah,
and
by
some
police officers.
politician.
Wasn't some crazy shit?
Well, some politician, wanted to propose a law to ban men from being outside after 6 p.m. because, it'll make women safer because look at what happened to this woman. But the guy that killed her was a police officer. So when I think of the Ahmaud Arbery situation, it's like, well, it's not a gun, nut town, but the guy that shot him to death was a former police officer. Like, you expect him to have weapons, even in retirement. So,
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the culture.
like, how do you, like,
The culture
it's
is
easy
already
to say,
it's an
well,
ancient
civilians, this and
culture.
that.
No, what I'm saying is, but the thing is, this is an ancient thing. I'm not saying like this is an ancient gun culture in this country. This is not even talking about a present tense. This is talking about a culture that's been around here since the
No,
founding of
I'm
the
just looking
country.
at that one
So,
particular instance. It's like,
yeah.
okay, even if we did get the guns off the streets, cops and former cops are still going to have them. Ahmaud Arbery was, even if we did all of the, the gun control and took everybody's guns except for the police officers, Ahmaud Arbery would have still died the way he died because it wasn't like it was just a regular citizen. It was somebody who was in law enforcement
So like
that
flips,
should have known the law,
but that
but
flips.
he was so intent on
He does know the law
killing him.
because he flips back to what the Second Amendment was all about in the first place. The honest
Yeah.
truth about the Second Amendment. Who gets shot by those guns and get away with it in the first place, even before what the Second Amendment was all about. He just represented the most ancient representation of the Second Amendment, protecting property from black bodies. So he just performed that act, and now like luckily it was seen by camera, seen by the people, because otherwise that case wouldn't have happened. They showed the footage because they thought it was an excuse. Like, look, we killed him. This rightful kill right there. They showed the footage because it was so they were
Yeah,
like
they
confident. They
narked
were
on
confident.
themselves because
Yeah,
they thought that people was going to celebrate them.
yeah. this particular case about gun culture for me shows. That's why I like to bring. That's why I want to. That's why I brought this article up and arbor because it's intersection of different things about gun culture that we get to talk about with the situation here. That, a former law enforcement, in a gun frenzy town, who's already fallen. He already knows the law. He's been a cop for a long time. Um, so
Can I
that's
ask you
just
this question?
yeah, yeah.
This is an interesting viewpoint question. I mean, maybe not. You might not be able to answer it here and now, but you might find it interesting. Um, I think about the Zimmermans. I think about the podunk back road
Oh
guys that
God,
killed Ahmaud Arbery,
yeah,
right?
like some deliverance shit, playing the banjo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think that these people would be so gung ho about pursuing someone if they didn't have access to guns at all? Do you think that those situations would have happened the way they happened?
I mean, they wouldn't feel as powerful with fire. Mind you, mobs of white people were doing things without guns back in the day. Or to be straight up buck about that, they didn't have guns. They just had tiki torches. That's why people were scared about the tiki torch image, because
All right.
that was the real mob. They just
But
had
they
like
drew guns, but there was three of those men, and they
yeah,
drew guns on Ahmaud
yeah,
Arbery. Um, so
in the
I feel
pickup truck
like
too. They definitely would have. I still, they definitely would have been like, "What are you doing around here, boy?" With the same kind
no,
of
I mean
questioning.
they might have said something taunting, but do you
Yeah,
think that they would have pursued him
no,
the way that they did in the absence of having access to firearms at
they
all?
definitely
Because
felt less powerful. They would have felt less powerful and less confident.
Zimmerman would not have chased that boy down the street while he was
Not
on the
at
phone,
all.
right? So
But he also had prior. He shouldn't have had a gun in the first place. He had prior, like, actual, like, on the record, police stuff that happened to him in the past.
yeah,
So
yeah, he did.
yeah, he wasn't.
So I've never been shy about my support for 2DA, for the Second Amendment. I've never been shy about that. But it does give me pause. I mean, the only reason why I really support 2DA is because I feel like Pandora's box has already been opened and the cat jumped out of the bag right next to it. Like, I feel like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I'd rather be armed if I had the legal opportunity to do so, because I don't want to be caught out there with somebody, armed against somebody armed while I'm unarmed. Like, you say, well, call the police. I don't got enough time for that. Sorry. So, it's been
But I already
when
showed you the hard
it's been
numbers. The odds of
it's
that is not going to happen. You might, it's not. You're not going to, a person with a gun. If a person with a gun does come up to you, you probably won't have your gun.
if I had access to my gun, like
Yeah,
if I like had a license,
yeah. I'm saying when
I'd
gun.
always have my gun on my hip. I don't know what you're talking about. I would be armed at all times. But that's a different conversation. But I just know that, like, the
No,
chances
I'm
that
telling you.
somebody.
No, I'm telling you the odds, statistics of over 3 decades of studies of gun violence.
Oh yeah,
The
I
odds of
don't.
that's not going to happen. Nothing's going
Yeah,
to happen
I
to you
know
with a gun.
odds
You might
are
shoot
that that's
yourself in the
not.
foot by accident. That might be a higher chance of you doing that.
I
I'm being straight
understand
up.
that.
Yeah.
I understand that. I
So yeah.
understand that. But in my view is that if the improbable happens, I would rather you be sitting in the witness stand defending me than being one of the pallbearers. That's all I'm saying. I'd rather have a fighting chance in a situation like that than to be shit out of luck, because I can't even yell out Superman's name. Batman will not be in the shadows with a batarang.
But the thing
Like,
is, we have
I'm
these
shit out of
billionaires.
luck in that
We have these
situation.
billionaires, and no billionaire wants to be Iron Man. No billionaire wants to be
Yeah, that's
Batman.
ridiculous to me.
No
One of
billionaire.
y'all,
Yeah.
one of y'all have both of y'all parents shot and killed. Like, y'all, you got to be Batman. I mean, come on, man. But what gives me pause, even in my support of the Second Amendment, what gives me pause is what you mentioned about these statistics. It's like, well, a lot of people say, well, I need to be armed. I need to be strapped, to make sure that in case, but those things never happen. But then I think, well, is it partially, isn't part of the reason why you might face a lower odds of somebody making the attempt is if they assume that you're armed and they don't want to put their lives in danger that way. I mean, will we
No,
get
because
more burglaries? Will we get more people being accosted if they knew that, you know, the federal government came in, took everybody's guns, the open
the federal
and
government
concealed
can't do
carry is
anything about
gone?
it. Yeah.
When the criminals come at you and have a reasonable expectation that you won't be armed, with that then raise the chances that we would get more attempts after that? That I don't have the answer to.
Yeah.
But when you look at the statistics as they are now, because that's really the only data that we have right now, you say, well, there's more people blowing their own heads off, or even accidentally blowing their hand off or blowing their head off. There's more of that
They didn't
happening
get
than
locked up for
people
that.
stopping a burglary
Getting locked up
in
for shooting
progress.
themselves somehow. Somehow
Right.
you get locked up for shooting
On some
yourself.
cheddar bob. I mean, there's more cheddar bobs out there than
Makes
John
no
Wicks,
sense. Yeah.
right? So, and me understanding that, I say, well, maybe it should give me pause, and maybe if they were able to successfully get rid of the guns and get rid of the firearms industry, the private firearms industry, et cetera, et cetera. But then I also think, you know, especially with the increasingly militarized law enforcement organizations and paramilitary organizations, if they know that the rest of the country is completely unarmed, I just feel like complete subjugation just becomes that much easier. So
I
that
think
gives me,
subjugation is already complete because no one's doing
but
goddamn
I'm
shit
not
with
quite
any
sure of
guns.
that yet. I'm not quite sure that we've reached that point yet.
All we have
But
is
I
like
do know that it's in
individuals.
the bag
Yeah.
once people don't have any recourse for self-defense. Because again, like, I think that people do forget that the Constitution does allow citizens to defend themselves against illegal activities from government representatives. And for whatever reason, we just pretend like we don't have those rights.
Yeah.
So
You
I
get
feel
washed
like
over,
if
like other
you know,
countries
I would
riot.
feel better in the interim, like in like the here and now, if they really did, if they went up into all the trap spots, they went up into the, you know, the KKK caves, and then took all their guns.
And this is why no one. This is exactly this is why it's hard not to
Right.
be able to take anyone's guns away because they're not going to do that. So you know,
Right,
no one,
but I'm just
not
saying,
taking my
theoretically
gun away.
speaking,
Yeah, exactly.
if you got rid of if you got rid of the
Yeah.
guns from the criminal elements,
Yeah.
you got rid of them from the radical radical left, radical right, whoever it was intent on using firearms for violence. If you took guns from all of the crazy people and then you went to the reasonable people and say, well, you don't really have to worry about any of that. You know, let me, you know, give, you know, they do. Remember they used to do the trade in the money for the guns. Remember they used to do that
Yeah, they
here in the
still do
city.
that, but no one gives a
They
shit.
still do that.
Yeah.
If that happened, I think that I would feel weirdly safer. I would be feeling okay about getting rid of 2DA.
Yeah.
But then I think that, you know, if we start getting more draconian laws and policies passed with you know, with no real resistance and no chance at a resistance, I think that that would definitely then ramp the fear back up
I don't know.
for me.
I think people. I don't know. Like literally, we live in a system where, like, you know, a grandmother can get sick and fucking die. Like, that doesn't make you be mad about something. So we already passed that. People are
Yeah,
mad
in a way.
at guns
Yeah.
for a whole different situation, which is why, like, I feel like this problem is going to persist because, you know, other places people get mad about things. They're mad because of like social cohesion is falling apart, but the fact that people are
And how do
mad.
they normally react to that? They normally turn that pain in on themselves with drug abuse, alcohol abuse, self-harm, isolation, things like that. It's just, you know, and again, I think especially what happened in Colorado was a good example. It was very clear that he did have mental health issues. It's well documented. A paranoid person, a loner, somebody that stayed to themselves. That's a person that normally would turn their rage within and harm themselves. And for whatever reason, he did the opposite in this instance, and 10 lives were lost that can't be returned. So
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, you know, they was going to pass a law, the same gun that he was going to get. They're going to pass a law to make it a little more restricted from those kind of people from getting it, and they
I
vetoed
just
it.
don't understand why people advocate against gun control for
Why
people
can we
who
can't have?
have been treated for mental
I
illness.
just
Like
feel
I
no,
don't.
no, not just in general. I just feel like like it just straight up common sense. Like the way cars are regulated. Like the way
But yeah,
like
but they used to
guns
fight
kill
back
people.
against the regulations for
Yeah,
windshields. They fought
yeah,
back against the regulations for safety belts.
yeah.
They
Exactly,
fought against
exactly,
all of those things. So
exactly.
it doesn't surprise me in the least that would be the case.
It's like easier to get a weapon to murder mad people right now. You can Google 399 AR-15, and you can just like get one for 399 with
Yeah,
no
I wouldn't
skill.
want one of those because
So
that
you
shit would like eject the bullet backwards into my face.
so like you can
Cheap
like
ass AR-15.
you get 399 base model AR-15 from the internet. Like so it's like it's like a thing that's like it's out there, and then you have these like trolls who also like showing I can 3D print a gun. Remember that was a fad? That's gonna come back. Definitely gonna come back. I can 3D print my gun. I don't even need to buy a gun. I can go 3D print it. So that's the
At least
Pandora.
they'd
Like
be
you're
able to kill Magneto.
right. There's already metal 3D printed technology. When he was doing that, there was plastic and stuff. Now we're already up to the point we have easily can make metal and different composite
I
material
know, but I'm
3D
saying they could
printed.
they
Yeah.
could still kill Magneto with the plastic.
It has to be a plastic bullet though.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. That's like being shot by one of those cheap kind of broom end of a
Oh
broom from
no,
the
them
dollar
no, them
store.
shits can work. Don't
What? I never
you
seen.
get you get enough velocity with the right shape, it's
But
going through you.
it's like those rubber bullets kind of thing. So
Nah,
it's
but
not
the
lethal.
rubber bullets are shaped to bounce off.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a hardened plastic projectile, a
Like an arrow.
conal with a con, yeah, like a
Yeah.
conal, yeah,
Talking about some
it,
action movie shit.
they have dude, they have bullet technology where they can use frozen water and shoot you with frozen water.
That's what I'm saying.
Bullets made of ice.
The Pandora's box
And
is
then
out of the.
all the ballistics is lost because the body temperature from, you know, that's escaping will melt the ice. Like they were talking about that 20 years ago.
Yeah. It,
So,
it just feels like at this point we're like knee high. We're like waist
if they
high in
could
the
put
flood in our
mean,
basement. We just
if
need to
they could
close
shoot
the
you with mean
pipe.
tweets, they would put that in the cartridge too.
Yeah, remember Chris Rock said that if they made bullets $1 million, like how like people be a little more like specific who they shoot. So
Jadakiss said that shit too.
imagine you have to make your bullet out of frozen ice. So that's
I think
so
ice is frozen by definition, right?
yeah. So that's Black Power Magic Hour. That's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We're on act.tv with 47,000 subscribers, and Dr. Genius is on YouTube, Facebook, Discord, and YouTube, and that's politics as usual.